fashion for me was the first step to kind of show my personality. And my mom, who was an architect, she said, why don't you try metal instead of fabric? So I did this work experience age 15, 5 days. I did 6 pieces and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
So what jewelry is your favorite one to make?
If it's someone who's an engagement ring and when they have tears in their eyes, that's as beautiful to me than doing a big piece. I think it's that personal connection, that human touch. That's when it's all beautiful.
And so the charity project you did
with Nelson Mandela, where every year on his birthday I created sculpture around his stories, and the last one we discussed was this face, which is the shape of Africa, and it has black diamonds all over his face, where he was born, where he died, where he did the peace agreement, basically his long walk to freedom on his face.
Welcome to Driven Women by Cash and Rocket, where exceptional women break barriers and share their journeys.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce you to a dear friend of mine, Sabine Roemer?
Yes.
She has just come back in from Switzerland.
Yes.
Lived here for many years.
Yeah, 21 years.
I know, super excited that you're back.
Yes.
Very sad you've left the UK.
Might be.
But thank you for coming.
Thank you for
joining
having me.
Driven Women.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So let's go back to the beginning of your career. You started very young, becoming a jewelry designer in Germany.
Yeah.
And what made you go into that field, and how did tell us about your full-on German journey?
Yeah. Well, basically, I think when I was young, and I come from a very small town in Germany, and I wanted to always express myself differently, and I think it was always through art and craft, and I couldn't, because it was a small town, and fashion for me was the first step to kind of show my personality. And my grandmother, who was much taller than me, she said, okay, you want to do fashion? Let's sit down and do a pattern and another pattern, because she always had to make her own clothes because she was so tall. So I was sitting down there, I think it was 12 or 13, and she showed me the pattern, and the fabric just left, and I was so frustrated. I was just used super glue in the end. I'm like, this is definitely not my cup of tea. And then my mom, who was an architect and did the interior designers all the time, she's like, you know what, we're very close to Pforzheim, which is the center in Germany for jewelry making. And she said, why don't you have a talent with your hands, why don't you try metal instead of fabric? And I was like, that's great. And if that doesn't work out, I wanted to go to the theater and do stage building, and this storytelling was very deep embedded into me. And so I did this work experience age 15. On the first day I was there, and the guy was showing me all the tools and the workshop. And he's like, you never seen anything like this? I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, by the end of the week, you probably have one piece done, and then you can take that home. And I was like, okay, great. On the first day in the evening, I showed him like this. And he's like, you've just finished this? I was like, yes. So after 5 days, I did 6 pieces. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I begged my mom to skip school, which I was allowed, start an apprenticeship, and then was very quickly won a scholarship. And so the industry pushed me through, and then I became a master at 23.
Okay.
And then I came to London at 24. So,
and being a master, what does that entail?
I mean, it's for everyone it's different, and I even felt so the German education system turns you into a master after certain years. So you do normally apprenticeship for 3 to 4 years, and then you're a normal qualified jeweler. And then after 7 to 8 years, you can come back and do your master degree. And in Germany, it was like you can hallmark your own jewelry, you can open a shop, you can be a professor, you can teach jewelry. So it was just the next step level. And because I won the scholarship, they kind of rushed me through this process. And normally, I mean, everyone in my class was end 40s, and I was 23 and coming back because of the scholarship. To be honest, I didn't feel like a master back then at 23, because you say that 10,000 hours makes you a master. And then coming to London and working on Bond Street, very like, oh, I can do everything. I learned very quickly there's a whole different level of craftsmanship. And now when they come to you and ask you, how can you build this? Then I'm like, okay, now I feel like a master after 30 years. Yeah. I think it's time, and you always learn. But the paperwork I got at 23. But I think the
and so
feeling was
coming
different.
to London was a big step.
Yeah.
And obviously coming from a small town to a big city.
Yes, lights.
Where you have all the the brands and lights.
Yeah.
What was that?
I mean, it was amazing coming here. So, I mean, I traveled the world in between, and I was in Greece, and I was in Australia and Austria, and I tried to work in different workshops to really harness all these crafts and different. So in Greece, you do inlay work, and Austria, we had these very weird chemicals to put the fine gold on top of the gold layer. So there were all these, and in Australia, we learned setting from the back, and I was like, okay, that's so interesting. So after 3-4 months, I felt like in a workshop, you learned everything. And then I did tool making courses, which is amazing because sometimes there's a piece you can't actually craft, and then you have to make your own tools to actually end up going there. So very, very workshop focused. And I think London always excited me because I was 17 when I came on a school trip, and all the lights, and I think it was the Brit Awards back then, and there was a red carpet and Spice Girls were walking. I was like, wow, I'm gonna live here one day. And I did, and my all grown up life I lived here. It definitely is my home. I left Germany when I was 18, and I spent 21 years here. So it's definitely my home, and it catapulted me. I think even through my craft and my work, the brands I was working with, there is a top notch, on Bond Street. When you do collection work or high jewellery, it's miles apart.
Yeah, but so who did you start with? Who was?
So I came here to work for Stephen Webster.
Okay.
And I was there for a few years, and then there was a workshop I went afterwards, and he did all the one-of-a-kind pieces for all the Bond Street jewelers. They have all their own workshops, obviously, but if there's one which is a strange cut or it's a bit bigger than the norm, you have to start all over again. So that's the pieces we then ended up having. And they were all the big names, and that was kind of funny because they're like, oh, have you worked in platinum before? I might break the news here, but I was like, yes, of course I worked in platinum. I never worked in platinum before. I just said yes to every job interview, and then I learned on the job. But I learned that, and then titanium, and working with the Formula One.
With all the
so it was very interesting to actually learn, the different techniques and in different workshops. So
and so you've done from high-end jewelry to bespoke to sculptures related to charity. Which one stands out the most? The piece?
I mean, they're all so amazing stories, which we will play 5 hours later. But I think where it changed, I think my career path as well, was when I was 27. Mr. Fayette just asked me to go and launch in Harrods, and I met Nelson Mandela. And I was 27, and I read every book I could find, of him to don't embarrass myself on the first meeting. And I did this Nguni cow, and I think that project sparked my love for art and kind of capturing sculptures in a bigger space. There's only so limited space you can work with in jewelry because it's so fine and small. And I think to go a bit bigger and to kind of have an impact even more than genders, right? Because most of the jewelry is women. But to have actually capturing the audience of more people, collective people, is the art world. And I think I was fascinated by that. And then launching in Harrods, which was very commercially driven, and then got picked by Walpole here to be, crafter program. And the path was like, okay, you want to go into a brand? And I don't remember, it was one of these Walpole discussion moments, and it was very interesting, and the mentorship was amazing there. But I think it was a FT journalist. She said, brands can stay on without you, and an artist dies, and then there's no pieces anymore. And that kind of stuck with me, and I was like, if my children want to do something, then they should find their own way. They shouldn't use my name. I find it's a bit odd. And I think that moment clicked for me, that I was like, I'm an artist. Yeah.
And so the charity project you did, which was all about creating a...
So I started with him in 2007 with Nelson Mandela, where every year on his birthday I created a sculpture around his stories and the storytelling of his life, and kind of keeping him and his stories alive. And the last one we discussed was this face, a bust, which is the shape of Africa, and it has black diamonds all over his face, where he was born, where he died, where he did the peace agreement, where he did the first trip. So it was all like, it's basically his long walk to freedom on his face. And I was actually too scared to make it because it was his face, and I was like, I can do a camel, but I wasn't sure if I portray his face, you know. And I was a bit scared, and then the 10-year anniversary came up, and I was like, you know what, I haven't read anything in the news to keep his legacy alive. And I was like, I think if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
So I did it, and I said I dedicate 8, and the money will go to charity. So like one of the Mandela benefited, and African charities who can, you know, do an impact there. And yeah, so I'm on number 4 now, and then I'm gonna do till 8, and they're all numbered, and they will benefit African charities.
Okay.
In his name and legacy, and you know what he tried to do in his country. I did something for the Queen, which was very nice, especially after, you know, calling home London and the UK, and that was very beautiful because she was always the longest woman who was on the throne, and it was 65 years. And then I was lucky enough to be allowed to use the stamp, the royal stamp, and instead of doing it red, I used blue sapphires because blue was the 65 years of the Jubilee, what she had. So that was very special.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so you know, this has been a journey of learning, as you said, and saying, I can do that, and just go with the flow.
Then you'll learn later.
Yeah, but you know, it's probably the way forward. So, are there any advice that you would have given to yourself? You know, now knowing everything, etc. What would you have told yourself at the age of 21? Or 23 was when you were a master.
Yeah, it's a funny one, and I have a lot of, because there's a lot of young girls are entering the space now, which I love, because I think predominantly jewelry is for women.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful, and I do think, you know, I always say there's a tree, and there's 3 craftspeople or artists who paint the tree will always look different. And this feminine touch on the bench, I even spoke to a stone cutter, you see if it's cut by a woman or by a man. Yeah. Not necessarily one is better than the other, but there is a different energy and that goes in there. And if I could tell something my younger self, I was like, just trust yourself a bit more.
Trust your instinct.
Trust your instincts, because I think I had a lot of mentorship over the years, but not like one particular and who changed my life. But I just felt that a mentor can only teach you what they've learned. And that might not be your path. So I feel like even when the girls reach out, and I'm happy, you know, I'm always sitting and trying to teach now as well. And, you know, some universities ask me to come in, and I find it's really interesting to, you know, brainstorm with them and then finding more out where actually their love and passion lies, because that will take them, I think, to the next step. And then trusting that. Because I said to one girl, she's like, you know, I'm doing these rings and I really love them, but, you know, my cash is the wedding bands. And I'm like, yes, but do you want to do the wedding bands for the rest of your life? Do you promote them on Instagram, on social media? Then you will sell from that more. But then you neglect actually the thing, what you love the most. So I feel trust yourself, and probably having more the time out and sitting with yourself and trusting that process instead of trying frantically doing everything what everyone tells you to do.
Yeah. So what jewelry is your favorite one to make? What piece?
Everything. When you push boundaries, I find it's, you know, it's exciting if it's like a crazy new challenge for me to kind of, when I have to make my own tools or I have to go a bit bigger, it's a personal challenge on the craft. But if it's someone who's an engagement ring and, you know, they put so much time and effort to think about which stone to use, which do we put a flower in the back, do we put a personal story or note or saying inside the ring, you know, and then they come and they have tears in their eyes. That's as beautiful to me than doing a big piece which gets maybe more publicity. I think it's that personal connection, that human touch, I think and that's when it's all beautiful.
So you've always done very big, amazing, big
statement pieces.
Yeah. So what is it you're wearing today?
So this is actually interesting. So it was COVID, and thank God we were all like floored. We could not fly anymore. And I was like, finally, I have all this time to make jewelry out of the pieces I collected over the years. And these I got from actually Ida Oberstein, which is the gemstone cutting center in Germany. And they reminded me to not take yourself so seriously, to go back to your origin, because these are million years old.
Right.
And you found them in Ida Oberstein, which is far away from the sea. But these used to live in the sea. And something that can withstand time and the pressure of the nature is all encapsulated in these beautiful pieces. And then there's some baguette diamonds and round diamonds. I always like to mix, opaque pieces with translucent and faceted pieces to have just these different textures in one piece. And that is kind of just come back to your origin. And I feel like I'm doing that again after, 30 years. I just been back to Ida Oberstein, and when I was there and I was looking for all the Superwoman stones, where we probably touch on those later, but when I was sitting there and I was surrounded by the stones, and my mum's side comes from that area, I kind of all of a sudden it's like tick, 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 tick. It all made sense what I have to do next. And that was for me, I think when I'm struggling, I go back now to what's in here and why am I here? What am I here to do?
Okay. And so this is the ring where the women can choose, or men, can choose any stone?
Yes.
And where does it all come from? What was the idea behind it?
I think, I started them 10 years ago, and I did my first one because I had this shield diamond and I had it always in my pocket and going from one trade show to the next, and I could never find a matching part. I always say like speed dating the stones, and he didn't want to be with someone. I was like, okay, keep him. And then I had my first daughter, and I feel like it was the first time I actually was properly forced to be in touch with my feminine side. Because you're pregnant, it's hard to ignore anymore. But growing up with men in my household, very dominant mother and very strong masculine energy, and even workforce, right? I was always the only girl in the workshop, sitting there between men, and they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, sorry, So I was very apologetic about it. And I feel like it was the first time I touched or had to force myself to touch into that feminine side. And it showed me a whole new world. And to kind of my own daily reminder was then the Superwoman ring. To actually, I was like, okay, don't forget. Not necessarily being soft, but being intuitive, being emotional, smart, all these beautiful benefits of femininity. And I finally found this matching stone, and then I sold it, and then I did 2 more, and all of a sudden it came like a yearly thing where I go and match these stones up, and then I connect them, and they all look different. And then I do these Superwoman lunches and dinners, and the women come and they're always drawn to one. And then I'd explain them that this stone, this is my birthstone, but this is the sunshine stone. And together they form a new meaning. And then I put like a little mantra on the inside, and then the year when it was done. And then if it's number 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10. And so it's very limited. And and then now it's starting, the women coming to me to say, pick 2 stones for me.
Okay, but do many of them go with their birthstone?
No, some, yes. I have one client now, she's like, I want something with my birthstone, and then pick another one. And then I try to match and study her a little bit. What does she need? Because for me, example, I'm metal elements and Capricorn and January. So it's very wintry, it's very cold. So I love black and white naturally, because that's metal, it's cold, it's white. I'm very happy in a black and white environment. But I get stagnated. So metal needs fire to keep moving. So I need to add actually red into my life to get it going. So there's certain things where you're naturally drawn to, but you might missing an element or stone, something where you can support, and the nature is there to support us. I mean, if you're stressed, go out in nature, exercise, to get connected again, and then it helps you. And that's the beauty of natural stones. If it's diamonds, if it's natural gemstones, I don't really make a difference in it, but they need to be pure. As soon as you change them, it changes the element, it changes the structure, and it changes the energy. So if you heat treat it,
so now I'm going to ask you on a whole other question.
Yes.
Lab diamonds. Versus the, mine diamonds.
Yes.
Well, I know you have an opinion about this, so I'll just
go for it.
Let's go for it.
I have no opinion on lab-grown diamonds. They don't interest me.
They don't interest you.
For me, it's no energy from the planet. I think there has a place for it for women. I'm like, then buy a Swarovski or crystal or something. If you want just a shine, I find when it's made in a lab, there's something beautiful and energetic about the earth pushing something together and standing the test of time. And I don't know, like, I mean, I try to read up on it to kind of confirm my gut feeling, but we don't know if they can hold the pressure as much as a natural diamond. They have a different texture, you know, so they might change their color over time because UV light and everything might influence them. A natural diamond won't have that. So I'm not saying there's a space for it, but for me in my world, it's not interesting.
Okay. So you're going to stay far away from that.
I'm staying far away.
Do not set up your own lab in Geneva the last year.
No, I find, you know, and then I find it's always like the sustainability question, obviously. But I'm like, what about the ethical one? What about you taking all these jobs away from Africa? I mean, I spoke to someone who was like, oh my God, we have to give them new jobs opportunities.
Those jobs
now.
are young kids sitting in a line.
No, but there's a Kimberley process. There's a process of, you know, yes, that can happen, but there's a process that protects it, right? It's the same as like your t-shirt would cost 10 quid on the high street. It's probably made by small children somewhere as well, you know?
Yeah.
There's a process where you know, I think it's ethically and fair, is beautiful, and you know where your stuff is coming from, but how many do we know where this is made, right?
Yeah.
But like from just the product, natural and lab, I go natural.
But apparently you can't see the difference.
I mean, I always pick them up, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a trained eye maybe. I think they catch the light differently. They have more of a blue going on than a sunshine in the stone. But it's my personal opinion.
Okay. That's your personal
My personal
You're being very correct.
I'm like, it's like I can detect them like this. That's my personal opinion.
That's your personal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much
Natural.
for your personal opinion. So what's the next step? So you
harnessing that more. Going more to actually don't listen to any of the mentors and actually doing, and it's funny because that move was painful, leaving London and everything behind and starting a new life, and that mental break of actually just sitting and thinking, okay, I can do another collection, I can do another, and I will continue. Jewelry will always be there I still love it as day one, but I was like, what's next? What is the next step and evolution of this? And I think that trip to Ida Oberstein was very important for me because it clicked. And I had something floating around for the last 2 years, and it's the same idea. Like, you know, I have clients, they're like, oh my God, I had this TV interview, I'm wearing your ring, I would have never done it, it helped me, you know? Like, people need something tangible for them to feel, to make sense out of things. It's like, oh, my grandmother's there when I wear the watch, you know? So it does carry this energy, and it's not an accident. And these stones who are there, they're here to support us. So the idea to take these stones, not just in jewelry, but make them into small items around the house, into art pieces, but always kind of respecting and working with the stones directly. Okay. So that's next.
But you're also quite spiritual.
Yes.
And so obviously the stones does have a huge, you know, connection with you.
Yeah.
So that's very much part of your design, I'm assuming, and that energy that you are looking for.
Yeah, even if what you put in, right? You sit there and hours in creating something, and that's then an art, right? Like, why is this artist better than the other? There's a subjective view on it, but when you see the pieces in person, they just used paint and canvas, but there's magic. What happens?
Yeah.
And then you'll fall in love with this, or it evokes emotions. And that's the beautiful thing about the art. And that kind of idea, just taking it and using gemstones.
Yeah. And then so in regards to, you know, when you have all these pieces that you're doing to, you know, women around the world, or you also have men coming to design the engagement ring.
Yeah.
So how much involved are they versus you saying, let me do a few designs? You know, the inspiration, do they come with I don't know, photos of jewellery from...
Or from the wife already like circled in. This is what I
really?
want. Yeah, sometimes.
Magazine.
They're like,
I would like that one.
Yes.
10 carats,
Yes,
please.
that happens too. That happens a lot. But it happens as well that they're actually really thoughtful. And I think, this is the tunnel vision of every company, right? I only see the people who approach me, right? I don't see the other ones who go somewhere else. But the people who come to me, they want that specific storytelling. They want to capture either their love story or the favorite stone of the wife or their favorite piece and adapt it for her. It's a really memorable piece. Memorable, piece for them, and I think that's when it becomes timeless, and that's when you want to pass it on. I'm slow fashion, slow jewelry, have this beauty of craft,
longevity.
You know, there's, instead of buying 10 pieces, maybe you just buy one, and that's special, and then you pass that on, and that will, your children will cherish that more because you wore that every day, So
absolutely. And are there any of your daughters that are involved in the whole?
The little one, she's 8 now, but she just did a project in school about Egyptian jewelry, and again, I fell in love again with jewelry because the storytelling, how we have these artifacts, that's why we know how they used to live, how they were culturally, and that's, I think, what people forget about. Oh, it's jewelry and I like the bling and I like this, but it's it's a celebration of how we live at the moment and how we adorn us. It's a proper culture reference for, if we're still around in 100 years, the humanity, that they can dig us out and they're like, oh, that's what they wore, that's what they liked, so I think jewelry that's why I think it's so special, and I think that's why I fell in love with it. It's a really deep-rooted accessory for humanity, like this talisman idea and this piece, this tangible piece, which no other materialistic thing can actually bring to us.
Yeah. And so you're going to keep doing the jewelry, but are you going to go more into the art world?
Yeah, so I think what I focus on now, because I did this trip to Ida Oberstein, was I found all the Superwoman stones for next year, which is unheard of because normally I find one at this fair and then I travel to the other one. But because I had so many gemstones there, I had actually the time to pair them and sit, and the stone dealer doesn't laugh at me anymore. He's like, go and take your time, talk to the stones. I'm like, I need to check if they want to be together or not. So that was a beautiful ceremony in itself, for hours sitting there and teaming them up. So I'm going to launch them next year, and hopefully stay tuned with you have to come, obviously, with a beautiful event in Italy, because I haven't been with a Superwoman in Italy. I did New York this year. I think last year was this year, with Bergdorf Goodman, where we had a Superwoman lunch. So, and a new little collection will come out as well, which is my arrival then in Geneva and Switzerland, and kind of how the nature there changed me as well, and the design aesthetic. And then this art project, but I think that's probably more second half of the year.
Okay.
Because the stone cutting machine just arrived, so now it's time to be in the
Very
workshop.
exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
So tell me, do you have a fashion item that is your go-to power that gives you that extra?
I never thought about this, but my friend, she always says, oh, there she comes with her shoulder pads. It's like the triangle. I guess they're not today, but normally I'm always like...
Shoulder pads.
Shoulder pads.
Oh,
and the blazers with the shoulder pads. And yeah, I actually have to say, when she pointed it out, I was like, okay, you're right, actually. Yeah, that's when
give you a bit...
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. That's interesting.
But more, because I think I'm very straight, so to go out a bit more triangle.
Oh, great.
So I think that's a good cut blazer with shoulder pads and pants.
And
but
pants.
you love pants.
Yeah, I like pants.
I always buy dresses, and then I was like, nah.
That's the funny thing about doing all these amazing interviews is I get to change them.
Yeah, exactly. Can we do this again then? Bringing that out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so with the Superwoman, so where can people go and order one?
Just
buy
for me.
one? Okay, so where would that be? You got to tell them.
Of course, Instagram, people love it, and then there's a website.
What is your Instagram?
Sabine Roemer, and the website is Sabine Roemer. Facebook.
Okay.
What else is there? LinkedIn.
And that's how people get in touch.
No,
with you
most
normally.
of the time it's actually through someone who is already client, and then kind of
Or the partnerships like you had with, where you do the lunches
I did one with Audemars Piguet. Then we have like a dinner with them where they invite and I invite, or like a Bergdorf, or and then the next one in Italy will be more like this, with partnerships and stuff. But I mean, I always say if you can find me, then you find a way.
Yeah. You feel the energy.
Yes, follow.
I need to find out, by the way, what my birthstone is. I still don't know.
Well, I don't think it's sometimes birthstone. It's a combination, you know.
Okay.
There's numerology. There's feng shui. There is so many. So you kind of need to
start studying
see what can support you, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that
but we can have a look at it. Yeah. I make something calming. Something like that. Yeah.
Well, especially in the life that we live in.
Yeah, and I think it's
so
supporting.
busy.
Yeah.
And so, do you feel that also when people now are choosing the pieces or,
Yes, I mean, I think that they're looking for support.
Yeah.
Which I think there is, there is, I mean, the wellness space is blowing up, but even in the wellness space, I'm speaking to a health space now, and they're like, they've seen some of the snippets of my artwork, and they're like, we would love to have this in this health space. And I was like, yeah, but you have to consider, because if you do gong sessions and people offload the energy there, the stones will take it, but then you have to clean them and you have to look after them. So there's certain rules around some stones where you have to support some more than others. So
you have to clean the stones if you
where they take it, right?
But
I'm always saying, like, people talk to plants and they water them. True. I'm like, it's the same, right? And mine needs a bath once in a while. So you have an amethyst next to your bed, which can take all the bad stuff, and then once in a while you just need to give them a bath that they can release it all.
Okay.
So it's just simple things.
I don't have that yet, but I'm definitely gonna go and buy one.
Or clear quartz. You don't have to do anything. They clean themselves.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Where will we get these stones?
There's mineral and crystals fairs. I think there's probably some. Yeah.
But there's also lots of stones in regards to cleaning out the bad energy in your house.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So I paid a lady to go around in the house.
Yeah. Palo Santo.
Keep saying that there's some bad energy there.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Palo Santo, just smoke it out. Smoke all the
now
ghosts.
We have stones in each room.
Yeah. It helps.
To need one next to my
everything
bed.
Helps. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining.
No, thank you for having me.
Taking us on your journey and giving us your insight into the energy, how you look at the stones, because I think it's so nice to hear those different opinions and be part of a different
I think,
journey.
And then you choose what resonates with you, right? I always say that with even mentorships or this, you pick. And I do find it's very interesting that when you change, that the people will fall into place who are on the same frequency or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
Well, go and follow Sabina on her Instagram or website or LinkedIn. And
or you
if
just
you
call
want to
Julie.
be part of, or you just call me. Or if you want to be part of this Superwoman, I mean, look at it. It's very fabulous.
Yeah.
And it will give you strength and power.
Yes, exactly. Superpowers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.